I'm going to introduce you to a man who may be a lot like you. Joshua Carter. He's a believer. He works hard. He loves his wife, has kids. He's a good father. But something is missing. So let's meet the Carter family. It is yet another morning. The alarm goes off far too early, yet you somehow still feel rushed and like you're too late to even start the day. The kids are moving slow and they're frantic at the same time. They're not getting anything done that would be helpful. And there's just this low buzz of chaos throughout the house. A backpack is not where it's supposed to be. One of the kids melts down over nothing. Another one is just on their phone. Joshua's wife, Ashley, is doing 10 things at once. She's making lunches, she's getting a bill paid, and she is scheduling one of her sessions for later on in the day. She is a yoga instructor. And Joshua is trying to be helpful, but most of the time he's just standing back, staying out of the way, and just hoping the chaos does not overflow into the day. It's like, oh, look, another morning of regular chaos. No one's actually doing anything wrong necessarily, but chaos is leading the day, as it seems to every day. The kids get on the bus. He and his wife part ways. He kisses her on the cheek and heads out the door for work. Joshua works hard. He is a project manager at a small logistics company. On the way to work, he likes good coffee and he stops into his favorite coffee shop. Heather, the barista, sees him coming through the door and she calls out, "Joshua, you want another splash of caramel today?" And he nods his head, gives her a thumbs up, and gets in line as she starts preparing his drink for him as he gets closer, speeding up the process because he's there every day. Same coffee shop, same place, same order. He's got his phone in his hand. He's scrolling through Instagram, trying to catch up on what he may have missed the night before and this morning, even though he really didn't miss anything. He's waiting in line, and all of a sudden he notices that at the little bitty round table beside his leg, there's a journal that's open. The owner has obviously gone to fix his coffee, and the journal's sitting there waiting on him to come back. And he sees open pages and a handwritten note with quotes around it, and he cannot help himself. He reads on, and this is what he reads. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. The quote is by someone named Robert A. Heinlein. Josh was silent for a minute and he pauses heavily there before he moves on in the line. This, for whatever reason, hits him hard. And he's just got this unsettled feeling within him. He suddenly feels exposed as a man. He goes through a brief mental checklist as he gets closer to the barista who's wrapping up his coffee order. Yeah, I work. He's like, I also provide. I'm a good provider for my family. I, of course, love my children. But then questions creep into his mind. Am I actually capable? Because most of the time, honestly, he knows his wife handles more in the home than he does. And he looks at himself and he's like, I still like video games. I play stuff on my phone a lot. Am I growing? Or am I just maintaining what I've been doing for years now? Could I handle chaos if it hit harder this morning? Or am I at my limit right now? He feels the stress of the internal thoughts. And he thinks himself, he's like, I love God and I go to church. His faith is relatively new to him since he married Ashley. She was always a believer. He came to it later. He says to himself, but God did not make men to be fragile. He didn't, but he also didn't make us to outsource everything. And he thinks, am I really at my full potential? Am I just kind of cruising here, feeling stressed out at 40%? Joshua grabs his coffee, gets in the car, gets to work, and the day starts. He is leading meetings and going through problem solving, going through metrics. He's helping make decisions. He's helping deal with some logistical problems and some projects that he's got going on. He carries his responsibility at work without hesitation, which is probably why, as he leaves it on the table there, he comes home absolutely wiped out at the end of the day, feeling like he has nothing else. His boss gives him some new issues he's got to deal with. His coworkers, who are sometimes a little bit volatile, confront him with a few internal conflicts, and Joshua helps pull it all together. He is a solid guy there. He's doing his best. But then he thinks throughout the day, at home, he very much defers to Ashley, his wife, and he also defers to the teachers and coaches and schedules. When things erupt at home, as they can, he generally just tries to keep the peace and go along just to keep the peace without actually setting a standard or doing anything proactively to prevent the recurring arguments from happening again. He knows he averages out and generally lets momentum decide. Let the day rule the day. Then he asks himself in a moment, why am I bold here, but I'm not bold and in command and proactive in the place that it matters the most? The day's 2/3 of the way done, and Joshua finds himself at his desk. He's got his door shut, and it's a quiet moment. He grabbed a coffee about an hour ago, but the day has been so busy, he has not had time to drink it, and it sits there cold in his hand, untouched. The noise of the morning for a moment is past, and he has a brief bit of time to himself. There's no kids at his work that he has to deal with, as he will as soon as he gets home. His coworkers are not in there. There's nobody knocking on their door. At this moment in time, there's no expectations, just quiet. Yet, in his mind, uninvited, he sees that note show up again. And somehow it comes back to his memory. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. That Robert Heinlein quote jumps in his head again, and he stops and he asks myself, am I more of an insect than I am a man? Am I so specialized I am incapable of doing anything else? Does this place define me to the point where I don't do anything else any place else? The question's measured. It hits hard, and he is mulling it through. And then he starts going through a litany of thought. He closes his eyes and leans back, holding the cold cup of coffee that he really doesn't want to drink now. And he asks himself, what kind of a man am I? Am I lazy, or am I just avoiding responsibility? Am I strong, or am I really just comfortable? Am I kind, or do I use silence and withdrawal instead of courage? Am I brave? Or am I just really good at staying out of the way? Do I keep my word, or do I explain my failures until they sound reasonable? Do I live my faith? Or is my weekly church just a performance once a week? Do my kids see my conviction? Or do they just see me avoiding things for convenience? Do I lead my family, or do I just manage around them? Am I forming my sons into men, or am I just hoping it happens? Am I protecting my daughters and setting a good standard for a man? Or am I just assuming everything will work out and she'll be fine? And if nothing changes, what kind of men and women will they become? If they live like me, will they be ready for this world that they're inheriting? My God, am I just an aging adolescent? Or am I a man who's going to take ownership of all this? Joshua can't answer these questions right now. He is unsettled. It's a gut punch, and he knows it. He's been avoiding these serious thoughts, not just for a little while, but for years. He has slipped into the comfortability of the same, allowing routine to simply take over and him able to just go on default, allowing things to progress without very much input from him, including himself. But that's not okay. He realizes that God made him to be more. God did not make him to be a Superman or to do unimaginable things. No, that's not what Joshua understands. Joshua knows that God made him to be a better man. He needs to be a better husband to Ashley. He needs to be a better father to his children, and he knows it. But he can't do any of these things if he's simply not a better man. I don't want to stay this man any longer, Joshua quietly says to himself. And for the first time in Joshua's life, since he was very young, his mind realizes that he has unspoken, unrealized dreams for not just himself, but his entire family that he's been too scared to even engage with. And with quiet determination, he says, I must become a better man. I must become the man that God has made me to be. But how do I do it? Where do I even start? Suddenly he knows he cannot stay there. He absolutely determines to engage. He determines to learn. Right then and there, Joshua takes ownership of himself. As a man, he grabs a Bible. He remembers a sermon that he heard a couple weeks ago, and he remembers it was somewhere in 1 Corinthians, that big one with love. But this was not the love verses that hit him and made him think that day. His mind edged across it, but he didn't want to sit there. But now he knows he needs to reread those words of Scripture. He turns swiftly to 1 Corinthians chapter 13. He knows that's the love verse because that's all people talk about is the love verses. But he moves through the words fluidly until he sees it. And he reads softly but out loud to himself. When I was a child, I talked like a child and I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. And there it is in verse 11. And he takes a breath and he sits back and he says to himself, God doesn't call men to perfection. He calls them, no. He calls me to take responsibility. Joshua breathes a long breath and closes his Bible. He grabs a piece of paper and he starts writing. Welcome to Joshua's story. Welcome to the Carter family. This is going to be the first in many, many different stories where we follow Joshua and Ashley and their children through life. And we see how they interact with things and how the world interacts with them and how they engage and how they decide and how they follow their faith. Joshua's story is not finished. Neither is yours and neither is mine, because I have been a Joshua in my life, surely. And you know what? So have you. Let's be very truthful with ourselves. Let us not mince words or lie. Joshua is a man that we know, and we know very well. So welcome to Joshua's story. This is the Family Readiness Project. Starting next year, 2026, we're going to follow Joshua through his path and see where God, Bible, family, and life lead him. I invite you to join me. I'm Rick Sigmund. This is the Family Readiness Project. I would love to hear from you. Please email me at support@familyreadinessproject.com. You guys have a great and happy New Year, and we'll talk soon.